Welcome to the Greater Wealth here on Edge Radio Australia. It's a room full of educated men and Travis Carter. So are we ready for an incredible show where we're going to delve into, there's a lot of, obviously there's some big news going on in the world right now, which, look, I hate to say it because it kind of, I think it's almost, it feels disrespectful to not be talking about the human issue here, but we do need to talk about the reality of the financial issue because that will affect a lot of people and a lot of lives. So welcome to your show, mate. Welcome, Derek Whittaker.
Thanks. Always good to be here.
Great pleasure, mate. And all jokes aside, mate, very good to have you here. Travis Carter, and have your input as well, mate.
I'm sick as a dog, and I'm so glad to be here.
I'm glad you've got that to share with me next year. Really appreciate that so much. All right. Thank
Face
you.
mask, anyone?
Anyone? Cover myself in aquarium gel. All right. Now, the comments will be coming through thick and fast, I'm quite sure, on today's show because I've already seen the ticker's already flicking away. So with that, we'll jump straight to Derek. What are the issues we're going to talk about today?
Well, obviously, we've had the news breakout out of Bondi Beach overnight in relation to the shooting, which allegedly looks like it's a terrorist attack, and there's a lot of emotion going on in this. What I want to look at today is, yes, I don't want to discount the actual facts, people who died and all this sort of stuff, but what are the implications for Australia moving forward geopolitically, but also economically? It is an economic show that we look through the lens of that. So doing that. What we know how the left are going to play this out. They've already, we knew as soon as I saw it, I thought, yeah, they're going to try to do more reform, gun reform laws. We've seen this playbook how many times over it's predictable. Blame the firearm and all that sort of stuff and the firearm owners. Which is totally ignoring a lot of the issues like immigration that have come up, and of course a lot of the speech that has been going through, people quoting hate speech and hate speech versus freedom of speech and all this sort of stuff. What I want to have a look at, I want to see Israel's response immediately to the response on this from Benjamin Netanyahu, and put this in context of what we're looking at the moment.
Instead, Prime Minister, you replaced weakness with weakness and appeasement with more appeasement. Your government did nothing to stop the spread of anti-Semitism in Australia. You did nothing to curb the cancer cells that were growing inside your country. You took no action. You let the disease spread. And the result is the horrific attacks on Jews we saw today.
All right, so really fascinating that this is going globally. This is really in terms of the implications for where the world is going. Yep, that was my alarm.
There's a lot going on at the moment.
There is so much information going on, coming through that is happening here. But I think it's really interesting, that comment that, of course, this is the Prime Minister of Israel speaking on behalf of that. There's the natural anger that kicks in.
Of course.
But the question is, where does this put Australia in relation to foreign relationships with Israel now, especially in the context of what Australia's done and recognising that the whole stance on the Palestinian state that they put out there recently?
Oh, I'm so fired up about this, and I'm going to take the emotion out of it, okay? But I do think, because this is a finance show, so we obviously talk about the collision between politics and finance so much, but when Anthony Albanese went out of his way to recognise Palestine as a state when it didn't need to, there was no need to, really none. You've got that. You're also allowing these ridiculous demonstrations over a Sydney icon, Australian icon with the Sydney Harbour Bridge. Okay, we've had the events at the Opera House, and of course now Bondi. I mean, we're kind of going for three of the premier sort of, I don't know, postcards of Australia here. To allow those things to happen, of course it's going to create tension. Of course it's going to create dramas between ourselves and Israel because you've effectively taken sides, right? It really has. And I want to actually lay out that I don't take sides. And I wish these, well, I was going to say two countries, whatever the hell they are, this has been going on for a very, very long time. It's not our problem. Now, and don't get me wrong, I don't think we need to be good international citizens, but at the same time, I've grown up in this beautiful country and I've never, ever, ever seen any anti-Semitism. Not once, not a cracker. Okay, all over this country, obviously living in Perth, but looking at, I've never ever experienced any of it. So you're bringing this crap from the other side of the world to my country, and when the Prime Minister does that, it creates massive problems in social cohesion, but also exactly what you're saying. Financially, it's going to affect the way we do business with a big chunk of the world.
It was never Australia's fight to get into.
No.
It shouldn't have. And I feel the same way in terms of the Russia-Ukrainian conflict as well.
Totally agree.
With thousands upon thousands of Australian taxpayers, millions, I should say billions, of taxpayers' money going over to this situation.
We just sent some more just last week.
Exactly. And this is the problem that we've got in here. And, of course, there is – you look at how you see the common threads globally, right? Immigration's been the issue across so many different borders. We've seen it in the United States. We've seen it in the UK, Wales, Ireland, France, you name it, right? This is a big issue. And, of course, the narrative is that the globalists have basically trying to destroy countries within and allow these people through weak borders and do that. And there's just too many coincidences going on. You go, this is not coincidental. It's
an agenda.
Yes. Yeah. So we're looking at that. And Australians have been, protesting about the whole immigration issue. Okay. Now, why is that an issue? It's really fascinating to see Pauline Hanson's speech on this. I want to get this out because she is always censored by the mainstream legacy media.
Very much so.
So I want to hear her view on this. Let's take a look. Oh, there's Shaquille. Hello, mate. How are you?
Shaquille's arrived on the scene. We'll go to this
video.
I know
my hair was out, so I thought I'd just give it a quick comment.
You were doing the Fabio. There we go. All right, let's have a quick look.
I love how he's got the slight haze on the camera filter to make himself look a little bit younger.
Rub Vaseline on the lens. I like it.
All right, so let's get into another gorgeous redhead. So here she is.
For these bastards that actually don't have pride in our country and our Australian flag, then be prepared to get what we're going to get. And we've seen it now with the division that is happening, the hatred that we see on the streets, the escalating crime, and that's only going to escalate even further unless we take a stand on this and make sure you know who you vote for next time. And if you look at what's happening in England, Birmingham, 30% of Muslims there, and they're taking over the councils. You've got, Sharia law courts. They're losing their identity, their culture in England, and the same damn thing is going to happen here. It is absolute basket case of what's happening out there, and no wonder the Australian people are so angry. But I'll keep fighting about the mass migration. It is about mass immigration that's happening here, and it's destroying our standard of living, way of life, and our access to services that every Australian has a right to. But the government brings them in purely for the vote, and the fools out there keep voting for them. You're going to suffer. You will suffer.
That point that she's just made about the vote, I mean, I hate to say I told you so, but I've been saying this for a very long time, and I'm not the only one. So many have. When will the everyday Australian actually wake up and realise you are importing voters? You're not importing people for the benefit of this country. You're importing voters, which just shows how incredibly selfish and how not focused on serving our representatives are in the parliament.
So there's two parts to this, right? Travis, you want to say something? Go ahead.
I was going to say, just leading on to what you were saying, if you go have a look on Albanese's Twitter account, you go have a look at how many comments are coming up on it saying, is this the doctor or the engineer come to save Australia?
Oh.
So just talking about the shooter, what sort of an immigrant is this guy?
Good point.
They haven't said where he was from yet, but, we have eyes. So
very clearly.
Yep.
I think what's really interesting too is there's two parts to this. There's the internal economic situation of Australia and where they put it in terms of overseas international people wanting to do business here as well. So there's the external and internal. Australians need to rise up and go, well, what's happening to our tax money? Where's it all going and why is it being funded to these different causes?
Top to Ukraine for a start.
And I think Australians are going, look, we can't afford our houses. Our kids can't afford our houses. We can't afford our rent. Cost of living has gone up. And now this our internal security of going out just to the Australian beach, which is something for free, is now under threat. I think that's where it's happening. Put aside, of course, all the emotions of death and tragedy and stuff like this. Okay. So it's really interesting how this is going to play out on the international stage. And where do we go from here? It's already
right. From an international point of view, okay, Shaq, what are your thoughts about how this is going to affect trade?
Yeah, I just want to, sorry, if I can not answer your question for a minute. Immigration into this country. Now, Travis, please don't say anything. So the last couple of times I was in the Chairman's Lounge with Qantas, it was with some very high-ranking politicians on both sides of the political equation. Why does anybody in this country want there to be a reduction in immigration? Nobody wants that, because immigration causes a critical housing shortage, and a critical housing shortage forces property prices up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So why would we want less immigration? Yeah. My issue is the Labor Party must hate me and my family, because a vast majority of my family are Muslim, immigrants, and we vote centre right. We don't vote for the Labor Party. So they must
You're
bloody
the
hate that.
minority. You are the minority,
Well,
though.
Well, I actually I don't think we are, though,
don't
Aaron.
think so.
Actually, I don't think we are, because I'll tell you what really pisses me off, and I've got family that are in the United States and Canada. What really pisses us off is when our family has to wait in a queue and has to wait 10, 15, 20 years, right, in order to be able to get legalized in those countries. And some other dude just, rocks up, crosses the border, and, they get their status straight away. And I say this to my American friends all the time. Let's take Venezuela. Let's say that you happen to be, by some miracle, you happen to be a business owner and an entrepreneur who's coming from Venezuela or Colombia or Mexico or wherever, right? You're not likely to break the immigration rules in order to get into the United States or Australia or wherever, right? You're going to sit in the queue. So who are the people that are actually jumping the queue? They're the worst. They're the worst of the people. They're the most untalented. The people that are actually talented, that have got businesses, that are entrepreneurial, they're the ones that are waiting. And they're the ones whose children are being told, oh, look, you're 18, but, you didn't get an education in this country. So, sorry, you're going to have to sit back again at the back of the queue, while some other kid whose parents brought them over when they were 5 years old, the government goes, well, you had the benefit of an education in this country, so we may as well let you in. Right? So the family that's trying to do the right thing gets pushed aside. It's outrageous. Right?
But it comes back to what Paul Hanson said. It comes back to that line. Okay, we are just simply importing voters. Okay, and I understand what you said about your own background and the fact of where your family predominantly vote. But certainly, because I don't want to make this a race thing or a religion thing. And by the way, Islam is not a bloody race; it's a religion, right? Okay, we're all of the same bloody race here, but you've got to be reasonable, and you've got to understand that a lot of these people we are bringing in do not share our values, do not wish to assimilate. Now, my family came to Australia, we assimilated, right? Came from a country with a very different culture, we assimilated. That's what we ask of people. We don't ask people to come to our country and screw it up. We don't ask to bring, there's no nice way of saying it, just the bottom of the barrel. Why are we importing the bottom of the barrel? That's what we're doing.
Aaron, let's get outside of our own circle, yeah? So when we hang out, we hang out in Subiaco and different places. Let's get outside of our own circle, yeah? You know a lot of immigrants. I know a lot of immigrants. How many people do any of us know who are immigrants to this country, right, who back this left-wing bullshit? None of them do, right? This stuff with the girls that were essayed in the UK, right? It was the Muslim community, and it was the immigrants that actually reported them, and it was the white police service that went, "Oh, we can't offend the immigrants." Right?
We're scared.
Those people are curious about this, but let me just get off that topic for a minute. I'll try to go back to finance for a moment.
Yes.
So let's talk about Israel just for a minute. Forget about the politics, forget about the war, forget about all that for a minute. So what did Israel do 20 years ago? Israel had a government-funded plan that said, if you want to start or buy a tech company, we will give you the funding for that.
Right.
And if it fails, we'll wear it. But if it works, we want X percentage in taxes. which is the reason why Israel owns so many tech companies and so many banks and so many fintech companies. Okay? Israel has another plan where they've said, if you want to do a startup or if you want to do this or that, we'll fund it. Now, Derek, I always talk about, I know I bore the audience to death. We talk about the yield curve and yield curve inversion, right?
Yeah.
What is the current interest rate on 10-year Israeli shekel denominated bonds? 10 years, 2%, right?
Really?
The current rate is 5%. So anybody who's a banker should go and borrow money at the 10-year Israeli rate because you're only going to pay 2%.
Mm-hmm.
What's the rate in the United States? What's the rate in Australia? And by the way, notice that in the United States, the Fed just reduced their interest rates by 25 basis points last week. Have we had any relief here in Australia? No. Of course not.
Let's talk about putting it up early next year as well.
Yeah. Oh, look, I appreciate what you said.
But you know what, Travis? If you remember what I said 2-3 years ago, right? I said, and it's not me saying it, I'm not some Nostradamus. What did they say? We have two choices. We have to increase supply or we have to crush demand.
Mm-hmm.
And what did every governor of all the major reserve banks, Reserve Bank of Australia, the Fed in the United States, the Federal Reserve in Canada, the Bank of England, the ECB Bank, what do they all say? We're going to crush demand. How are they going to crush demand? Drive interest rates up, tell you to borrow some money, borrow as much as you can, and then we're going to crush demand. That's what they told us they were going to do. And now have a look at it. How many people are suffering now? What's our homeless rate here in Australia? What's the homeless rate in Western Australia? Per capita, Western Australia's homeless rate is more than what it is in California.
What? I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah. Oh,
per capita.
I've just pulled up the figures. It's 48.2 per 10,000 people in 2021, and it's just going up.
Oh, it's certainly gone up since 2021.
Yeah.
Look up the per capita figures, Travis. Per capita,
24-25, it is now 106.3 per 10,000 people.
So it's gone up about 120% basically in that time. No, more than that, yeah.
Yep. And
our homeless rate, our homeless rate here in Australia, and especially in Western Australia, is higher than what it is in California. Yeah. Now, we've got people who are 70, 80, 90 years old in nursing homes in Victoria who can't get funding for their sanitary items, right? So they're being told, oh, well, just let yourself go and it'll just be cleaned up because they can't get funding for that. Meanwhile, yeah, cool. We'll spend a couple $100 billion on submarines and this and that, but we can't get an oil processing facility here in Australia.
Yeah, so more laundering of the cash.
It gets even worse to what Shaq was saying because we're going through it with my grandparents at the moment because obviously my grandfather just passed away, so we've got Nan going through the whole NDIS and all that crap. Right. So what happens is they'll allow a certain numbers in each state at a time. So you can't get onto it. They'll say, yeah, you qualify for it, but you have to wait for someone to die before you can get the money.
What a great system that is.
So I just there's so many failures in this Australian system.
I think we need to direct back to where we need to be on the finance front, and I think we've got some more content to talk about.
Have a look at Trump has been.
Sorry, can I just say one last thing? Sorry, gentlemen, remind me: are we a nuclear power here in Australia? One of the Five Eyes countries.
Sorry,
are we a nuclear power?
Well, in New South Wales, we have a nuclear power plant.
Weaponry or a power plant?
We don't have any nuclear weapons anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have any nuclear weapons anymore. Why don't we? This country's been bought and sold by foreign interests. We've got no nuclear powers. We've got no nuclear weapons. We've got no missiles. We've got no oil refining capacity. And what do we have propping up our bullshit economy? let's just bring in more immigrants. And who cares what they believe in, and who cares what they're gonna whether they're gonna assimilate into our culture. That's the problem we've got right now.
When you're being run by a government that is literally, as far as I'm concerned, no ifs or buts, they are guilty of treason. This is treason, what's going on to this country right now. And you're right, all the manufacturing we've lost, all of the industries we've lost. It's been happening for 50 years. This isn't happening overnight, but the massive acceleration in the last few years has been just untold.
Let's have a look
at $4 could fly to Israel tomorrow. We get a loan for $100 million on a 10-year note.
Yep.
2% interest. Done. Try getting that here in Australia.
Not sure I can afford the 2% interest, but there you go. All right.
So we're going to video number 3 now?
Let's go to number 3, yeah.
All right, here we go.
I want to just pay my respects to the people. Unfortunately, 2 are no longer with us. Brown University, 9 injured, and 2 are looking down on us right now from heaven. And likewise in Australia, as you know, that was a terrible attack, 11 dead, 29 badly wounded. And that was an anti-Semitic attack, obviously. And I just want to pay my respects to everybody. But to Australia and the Prime Minister, to everybody that we know so well, we get along with so well, we have a great relationship. That's a terrible situation going on over there. Think of that. And in Australia, you probably read it's been a very, very brave person, actually, who went and attacked frontally one of the shooters and saved a lot of lives. So very brave person who's right now in the hospital, pretty seriously wounded. So great respect to that man that did that.
Yeah, great respect to that guy who did that. And, of course, also had self-control not to pull the trigger on the shooter.
Yeah, off air, I mean, obviously I gave my thoughts on that one, and and not that I'm keeping it from air, it's like the self-control element, I'm not going to lie. There's no way in the world that I wouldn't have shot that man.
And I think he was very brave in that he risked being misinterpreted as being one of the shooters because he had a firearm in his hand. Police could have seen that and gone, whoa. So it was interesting to hear his response. He's kind of like, well, I've got this gun, back off, go away, give up or whatever. And then he puts it down. It's like, well, it's not mine.
A moment of clarity, I think, right there.
Far out. Talk about putting it all on the line. I think what
it was Muslim too, by the way. Just for the record. The bloke that got up him. It was Lebanese Muslim.
We've heard that he is from one of the Arabic countries, but he's there's
another claim that someone says he's a Christian Maronite. So that information is still being.
Okay.
He's from the Middle East.
This is a great point.
But he's Muslim. But as I said on our previous show, it doesn't matter. Actually,
exactly.
It's not about left-wing, right-wing politics. It's not about religion. What happened yesterday is a travesty. And what's going to happen is people are going to be looking, right? Fund managers, investment managers, we're looking at, okay, so where do we put our money? Okay. Do they drive the money out of Australia? Do they maybe look if they want to have something in this region? Do they put their money into New Zealand? If stuff goes wrong in the United States, so they start putting money into the US, have a look at the gold prices right now. Have a look at silver prices and platinum prices. People are fearful about their futures.
Yeah.
And a big part of that fear is because of the instability that we are seeing. And what we saw here in Australia yesterday, forget about that in isolation. What we're seeing is that our governments are not protecting us anymore. Our government could care less about us.
I'm not sure when was the last time that the Australian government protected the people. When?
Because I think it was like 1887.
It feels about that far away because, honestly, when we go back and we could talk about, well, let's just briefly say about Port Arthur, all right? There's so many questions about Port Arthur and the fact that, Australia and everyday Australians were disarmed. If there was, and I've been so anti-gun all my life, but I flipped on this. I'm starting to think very Texas on this one, right? Because if there were guns there, if people were allowed to actually protect themselves, and we're in a world now where we need to protect ourselves and our family, because the police are absolutely useless. The courts are even worse, and the idiots in power and politics are just incompetent, right? So we need to get the power back. What I'm getting at is if there was someone there who had a weapon of some description, that would have ended and more lives would have been saved.
Yeah, let me ask you this question. Are you going to be rude to someone and arrogant and just be right or dickhead if they may be carrying a gun?
Do you know what? It cut my road rage.
Absolutely is going to.
Yeah.
The amount of videos you see coming out of America, there was this one dad that tried to kidnap his own kid out firearm. There was an undercover police officer there, had a handgun in the handbag, shot him, took him out, saved the kid.
I remember being in Los Angeles one time when I was a teenager, and I saw this guy driving, the stereo's going, the windows are flexing type of thing, and he's leaning way back in his car like this, as they did. That was the style in LA at the time. And I kind of smirked when I saw that. My dad pulled me aside. He says, "You do not give anyone a look in this city because you don't know who's carrying a gun." And I realized how I was not street smart at all. But yeah, case in point.
It's a great equalizer between men and women as well.
I know. Derek's having a whinge about Christian hard rock. But anyway, let me just say, I don't want to chuck a Douglas Murray on us. Aaron, have you been to Port Douglas?
No, I haven't. I knew what you meant. Port Arthur.
Port Arthur. Have you been?
No, I haven't, mate. No.
You've never been? No. So I went down there 2-3 years ago, and honestly, all I knew about Port Arthur was the massacre. That's all I knew about it. It's actually an old prison.
Yeah, I know. That much I know.
When you get there, well, I didn't know that, right? You're more honest than me. You're white. So I didn't know that it was an old prison. And when I got there, one of the things that really struck out for me was that one of the former prisoners had reformed himself, worked for 20 years, and then came back and ended up becoming the warden of that prison.
No way.
So I looked at that and I was like, wow, there's so much history there. And it shows what Australian grit is all about. Australian, fight for the next day. That's what Australia is all about. That's what I love about this country. And that's what my family loves about this country, right? So when we see things like what happened yesterday, like the Port Arthur massacre, we shouldn't remember the Port Arthur massacre for the massacre. We should remember actually the history and the story that actually happened there, right? We should remember what we are about as Australians. And I'm quite proud to say I was born in Western Australia. I'm Australian, and you can't take that away from me.
Hang on. You've just said about we should be proud about what it is to be an Australian. Well, that's what they're trying to erase. That is exactly what's taking place. Mass immigration. We are losing our identity as a nation, right? I am so sick and tired. Okay, right then and there, yesterday, we needed men to step up, okay? We needed people to be like, and we saw that, and we damn well saw that, right, with that one fella, right, who is an amazing man, and I'm immensely proud of what he's done, right? But if that had happened 30 years ago, a great bunch of blokes would have jumped forward, and they would have actually, it would have been very, very different.
30 years ago, I reckon they would have just shot him on the spot, because I guarantee someone will probably.
Well, I'm telling you right
now, but that's my point, right? I could go up to the most racist psycho in the fucking country, Pauline Hanson, and you know what? She's going to look at me and go, "You're Australian."
Yeah,
that's what this country is about. This country is about the Aussie battler, the person who's going to fight for the next day. And we're being bought and sold by the politicians and by the moneyed up people, right? Look at Richard Pratt's, daughter who's not from the marriage. They're fighting over billions of dollars. That's what's in the media right now. What's not in the media right now is that your kids can't go and buy a house. Your kids can't afford to, get veneers on their teeth. That's what we're battling right now. And what I'll say to everybody just to come back to finance, what I'll say to everybody is, love Australia, love the United States, but when it goes to where you're going to invest your money in the places that you know the politicians are going to invest their money. Because where they put their money is where you need to put yours.
Oh, look, well, my children have great teeth, so I'm comfortable with that, right? But I will say that my adult son, there's no way in the world in his lifetime he'll ever own a house. He won't, okay? He won't. And my children who are coming up, younger than him, the chance of them owning a house is unbelievably unlikely because this country has been destroyed by successive Labor governments, and I'm going to wind the clock all the way back to before Kerr's Kerr. When we talk about Gough Whitlam, from 72 onwards, that's when this destruction of this country from that evil socialist party has come. And in the last few years, certainly since about 2015, we'll say the last 10 years, the acceleration of the destruction of the Australian identity has been at the hands of those monsters, and I've had enough of it.
Well, I think things are going to change.
So let's not whinging about it. What are we going to do about it? What are we going to do for your kids? What are we going to do for mine? What are we going to do for Travis and Derek's kids? What are we going to do about it? Because we've got to bloody stand up at some point.
We need to vote for people who strategically actually will do the right thing. And if you're a person who has got the gumption, then you stand up.
Well,
all right,
this is what most people don't recognize is things are quietly changing behind the scenes. And we're going to get to that in a minute. Before we do, though, I want to have a look at Trump's comment on Europe. I'm really watching Europe for an interesting reason. I think things are changing very rapidly there. And they're not prepared to actually be forward about that. But what you've seen is a negotiation. Trump has not dealt with the European Union as a whole, and you haven't seen him deal with BRICS as a whole. He's recognizing the sovereignty of these different nations and how they're operating. Let's have a quick look at this and then springboard into the next one. I want to have a look at this comment he made, same speech about Europe. Have a look.
Are reporting that your president might as well be the leader of the European nations also. They listen to us and they respect us like they've never respected us before. So we're going to work very hard. We get along with them. We want to get along with as many nations as we can. We've been ripped off by a lot of them for a lot of years. And frankly...
So there you go. He's recognizing the whole European Union. Watching this, let's springboard to the next one now in terms of what is happening on a global case. This is a video that's been created by an individual. It's a really interesting perspective. Take a listen.
System get dismantled in real time, and most people, they have no idea what it even is. We're in the middle of a complete global restructure, and that's what I've been talking about for the last 3 days, if you've been listening. 2 days ago, I talked about Trump cutting off globalist money pipelines flowing out of Venezuela and South America. And then yesterday, I talked about how America is divorcing itself from Europe, unfortunately. And today, we're talking about a brand new economic powerhouse forming right in front of us. So here's the through line. For decades, a tiny network of unelected institutions, central banks, through supernatural clubs and a globalist architecture behind the dollar system quietly decided how the world works. It wasn't presidents, it wasn't voters, and it wasn't the nations. And that's exactly why parts of Washington are melting down right now. Parts of Europe are even melting down as well. Because Trump is dismantling that system piece by piece faster than anyone expected, and the Europeans are freaking out. Look at the AI chip approvals with China. That wasn't weakness, that was leverage. And sending Kushner and Witkoff speaking directly to Putin, that bypassed the old diplomatic channels that have controlled global affairs for over 70 years. And now we have this provocative idea bouncing around DC. Listen to this. They're calling it the Core Five. America, China, Russia, India, and Japan. A strategic alignment that sidelines Europe overnight. Do you realize what's going on here? Do you see the scale of what's happening? And of course, the White House denies it. They have to, right now anyway. But everyone in the national security world is saying the same thing. You know what? It fits the pattern. Trump already called the G7 obsolete. He thinks the UN Security Council is a museum piece, and he's openly challenging NATO. And the new national security strategy, well, it literally warns that Europe faces civilizational erasure. You may not like his style, but he's not wrong about the system being broken. And here's a real danger, and I mean danger for him. When you start dismantling global lifelines, the financial networks, the alliances, the influence circuits that keep entire nations and institutions alive, you don't just disrupt power. You expose all the ride-alongs, the fake supporters, the people terrified that their world of profit and power is ending. That's why you see all the panic. That's why you see all this infighting in Europe. And that's why the same people who pretended to love America are now screaming as the old structure collapses, because this right here is a restructuring of the world order. And they're losing power and money. And for the first time in our lifetime, it's being led not by globalists, but by a man and a movement who believes that nations should control their own destiny. And that puts him in dire danger. America first triggered them before like crazy, but America restructured, that terrifies them even more. And here's what most people aren't even noticing. This restructuring doesn't just challenge Europe or South America, it challenges BRICS. Because if the USA, China, Russia, India, and Japan form a stable competitive economic bloc, then BRICS loses its leverage altogether. It loses its urgency and possibly its entire purpose, which is good for the Americans. This forces them to rethink everything, the same way it forces Europe to rethink everything. And all of this is exactly what Trump said he was going to do in the first place. So when you look at this moment, ask yourself something. What's missing? If all of this is breaking apart, where's the foundation? Where's the leadership at? Our level, the citizens. And this is exactly why we go back to the same message I always share. Citizen servant leaders matter now more than ever because the world is shifting so fast. People are sick of bureaucrats and polished politicians. It's the citizens, you, in your town, your city, your state, your nation, who must decide what comes next. The bureaucratic elite, these global institutions controlling everything, it's cracking in a big way. And if we get in there, citizens who aren't bought, who aren't beholden, who are free, then we can lead. And you know what? It's time that we lead. It's time to take America back. Join me on Patreon and find out how you can get involved with Take America Back, because it's an organization starting, it's a movement, and it's happening right in front of you.
Fascinating, isn't it?
Absolutely. And like, it annoys me because it brings me back to something you keep doing, Derek, giving me optimism. But it's opportunity, right? Okay. And the system that we currently have does not work. It does not serve the people. And I'm certainly no communist, but I mean, I do want the general population to be looked after and to be served. And that is not taking place now.
In 2025, this year, one of the most significant pieces of legislation that passed through that people don't understand or seeing is the Genius Act.
Yes.
Big time. Let me go through it. 3 things that came out of it. 1, it legalized crypto. That was always the unknown. Will they do that? And of course, the banking cartel of old did not want it to happen. That's why you saw the Gary Genslers of SEC trying to get rid of it and make it go. Secondly, stablecoins had to be backed by something, which was huge because, of course, we know that it was depegged, the US dollar, from, of course, gold back in 1973 under Nixon. Now it has to actually represent something. This is massive. So whether it represents a currency or has treasury notes, cash in place, or even to the point where it is a gold or a silver type of stable coin, it's got to have that in its vaults, storehouses somewhere. The third thing that I think is the most significant of all of that was the fact that it didn't invite the central bank, the Federal Reserve, to the table. It now gave the right to cryptocurrencies and fintech the legal right to actually produce a currency. That is massive. It is massive in terms of who is controlling currency in the financial system.
So,
Derek, like I said 5 years ago, Derek, well, like I said 5 years ago, this will all become perfectly mainstream once the bankers get control of it. Yeah?
And that's
but let's just talk about gold just for a minute. Right?
That's exactly what they're trying to do right now.
Right? So let's talk about gold for a minute. So everyone goes, okay, look, we'll go buy gold, platinum, silver, whatever. Yeah? You go down to Perth Mint. Let's go buy it. Because we can hold that, because if the whole world goes to hell, we've got that asset. We've got that currency. Yeah? But let's just remember what Roosevelt did. Right? The greatest president in U.S. history. 4 terms. Remember what he did? He made it illegal for you to own gold, and he confiscated all of the gold off the people, and he made them sell it to the government at a price that was lower than the actual price on the open market. So we are beholden to our politicians. You think you own property? You think you go buy land and you're safe? No, because the government can just get there in eminent domain.
True. However, now we're in a technology era where decentralized finance can't be controlled or shut down by anyone. And this was the whole thing that was revolutionary about Bitcoin, right? Whether you like Bitcoin or not, it doesn't matter. It was the fact that it couldn't be shut down by government. So they had to make the best of it and go, well, we'll tax it and allow it to exist, right? And this is why these bankers were poo-pooing over it all over this time. This is the power of decentralization right now. Now, I think it could flip in the future, but for now, right now, here in history, it is the powers shifting back to the people.
If government can tell you here in Australia that you can't use social media if you're under 16, and now because of what happened yesterday, they're now talking about blocking VPNs here in Australia, like they have in the Middle East and China, where you can't use a VPN. what makes us think that the government won't be able to attack our ability to have digital currency? I'm sorry, I don't want to be like some doomsayer, right? But I don't trust the government at all, and I'm really worried about what they're going to do with the newfound power they've got, especially at the hands of the World Economic Forum.
Well, the wild card, of course, is the United States right now. If you want to do business with the United States, you've got to play to their song, dance to their tune, and this sort of thing. So that's the wild card there. So you might have socialist politicians, but they can't do without the consumer base of the United States.
They need the economic side, don't they?
So there's one thing.
Got the midterms coming up next year, yeah, and then 2 years after that, he's got the next election, which he can't run for, and then who are we left with? J.D. Vance, or who are we left with? We've got Trump for a couple of years. That's it.
Look, there's 8 years of Vance to follow, then whatever takes place, and then there'll be Barron Trump.
So the point is that something that you keep hearing people talk about, the crypto's on takeover, you can't buy a house in Australia. There's all this doom and gloom.
Mm-hmm.
I don't call me an optimist, if you will. There's always a way around something. And this is one thing the Honourable Robin Scott, used to be a One Nation member of the WA Legislative Council, said, doesn't matter what law it is, some clever cookie will find a way around it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I have great faith in the human ingenuity to find a way around things. So Derek at blueskyfactory.com.au, the link's in the little scrolly thing in the bottom, helped me learn the financial system on the stock market, the options trading and all that sort of stuff. On the housing market, so between Luan and I, after I had my motorbike accident, we went from a joint income for about $160,000 a year down to about $45,000 a year. We were still able to buy $1.2 million worth of property.
Yeah.
In this system.
Okay.
So
you've got to know the system. Without the education, you can't do a thing.
Spot on. And there's too many Australians out there, too many Americans, too many Europeans who do not learn the system. And half the problem is that the government, every time people start learning the system, they start changing the system. And they change it to their own benefit. Mm-hmm. And I'll absolutely guarantee you, and Trump raised this when he was debating Hillary Clinton, America's one of the few countries where they're not going to change the system because too many of the Democrat supporters donors use the exact same systems to get their money offshore to places like Panama. Look up the company Panama Business Solutions. Great company. I know the guy who runs it. There's so many different ways to either get your money into this system or to get it out.
Okay.
Or to be able to do what you want to do with your money on your terms. You need to know the rules.
Great point.
Our good friend Warren Black, who advises on tax structures, said to me, 20 years he's been saying to me, the tax system is purely optional.
Mm-hmm.
It should explore the foreign options, but you should also remember that you can get away with all sorts of stuff onshore. And all the rules that the rich take care of and the rich benefit from are available to you as well. Buy a property, depreciate the asset against your income. There's all sorts of rules. You don't have to pay tax. And you know what? As Kerry Packer said in that Senate inquiry in 1997, they're not spending your money so well that you should donate extra. So
do you know what
don't
I'd like
contribute a cent.
I want to have that speech from Kerry Packer on a button here that I can just press at any time. Just so I can.
You've got the 8 buttons.
Yeah,
on the
program
side.
it in. I think that might be the guy.
I think, Travis, I want to get back to your point. What you said was brilliant. And that's in the heart of humanity is the cry for freedom. And I think really this is kind of the values of this Edge Radio in many regards. The freedom of speech, the freedom of humanity, etc. You're so right. People find a way to get around things and do things. And of course, government is always following in terms of legislation. It can't be ahead of the curve.
They can't keep up. No. They just cannot keep up. People are too, we've been geared or designed or we've evolved to always be ahead of the evolution curve. And when I say the evolution curve, I'm not saying coming from apes to humans. I'm talking about as business evolves, as society evolves, as everything changes, humans are always going to be at the forefront.
So if you can be 3 steps ahead of where things are economically,
you'll
politically,
be fine.
and that sort of stuff, that's the cutting edge, and that's where the opportunity lies.
And the other one that I think is really
protect your own freedom, right? That Sheila in the UK, my other country, right? If I sent Travis a text message and said, listen, I reckon Aaron's a dickhead, nothing had happened. I wouldn't go to jail for that. That Sheila in the UK who sent a message to her friend saying that her ex was a F something, right? I can't say it because I'll get prosecuted. And now she's been, from what I understand, she's been arrested or she's been prosecuted or whatever because she called him an uncouth name. So don't just look at the UK and go, oh, it's only happening over there. That's what's going to happen here, right?
That's right.
Protect your own freedom, protect your wealth, protect your own money, protect your kids, protect your family, because it's going to happen here. No question.
Now, okay, just a little bit of a plug here for ourselves. Everywhere I go, I'm wearing this T-shirt, and on the back it says, and we see it up on the wall there, freedom of speech matters. It really does. And what's happening to me constantly now is people keep coming up and saying, absolutely, mate, and starting a conversation based on the back of that shirt. What I'm getting at is there is momentum. There is a momentum shift where people are now going, oh, my God. Yeah, my right to be heard is important, and I didn't realize I was losing that. So it's raised in the level of consciousness for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Hey, can you shut up for a minute, Aaron?
Can I stand up? Well, I'm the only one wearing
shorts.
Can
you shut up for a minute? It's a joke about freedom of speech. Oh, goodness sakes. I'll just sit here. It's okay. I'll just sit here by myself.
Oh, dear.
So the summary out of all of this, there's 2 points I want people to take away from it. First of all, you can't get too depressed and down on it. There's always a way forward. There absolutely always is a way forward. You just got to take your time. Sometimes you got to take 3 steps backwards to go sideways, 20 steps to go forward. There's always, as long as you keep moving, something's always going to change. Something's always going to get better. You just got to have that end goal in mind and not be prepared. And be prepared to change your plans to make sure you get to your end goal. The second one is knowledge is power, especially in the relations to protecting your family, doing the right things. Like that lady in the UK, I think she should be able to say whatever she wants over text messages, but knowing how heavily monitored and restricted and everything your text messages are, why would you put that? Knowing that's the system you are in, why would you do that on a text message?
And not just that.
Well, I don't care. I don't care, Trevor. It's just want to mouth off at Derek, and I send you a text message having a crack at Derek, right? I shouldn't get prosecuted for it, right? Derek can have a crack at me because he finds out I sent you a bad message about him, but I shouldn't get prosecuted for it. I shouldn't be risking going to jail for it. What the hell is that?
I absolutely agree with you, and I think it's stupid and retarded, but that's the system that she is in. So if she doesn't want to get prosecuted for sending a text message, don't send a text message.
No, I don't agree with that, Travis. Absolutely not. Look, she has a right to her own privacy. If you want to
gentlemen and audience, I've got to go. I'm sorry. I have to go. Love you all, face. Love.
See ya. Bye, Shaq.
So much. If you want to censor yourself on a public forum, okay, you know what? Do that. That's your choice. But as a private text message, no way. That is
text messaging isn't private, though. That's the whole issue. It's not. There's intermediaries, right?
Who supplies the text messaging system over in the UK?
Yeah. Okay.
Whose system is it?
Okay, well, it would be the phone service.
And what's the condition of using that phone service?
You don't break those particular rules.
You don't break those rules. Okay. And what's that rule?
No, okay,
All your text messages are given to the UK government. Mm-hmm. Every single person in the UK knows that rule. So it's like being told. Well, obviously they do. So what's the rule driving down the freeway? 100 k's an hour. If you drive out 120 k's an hour, are you going to cop the fine?
Often.
So the rule of using the freeway is 100 k's is the maximum. You want to go faster, you pay a fee to go faster.
Sure.
So her condition is, if she wants to send text messages, the condition of using the text messaging system is do not send those messages. So if you want to bitch and moan about someone, do it in person.
The problem is this, right? And I love this. This is wisdom from my mother, which I've never forgot. She said, never put in writing what you don't want to appear in court.
Yeah, I remember when you've said that, and it's so incredibly true.
And it's like, that's even before all this stuff came up, right? This is going like a long way back, and it's so true.
Yep. I had somebody, okay, I had a story that's come our way last week, right? And it's a sensitive one. It's regarding a alleged corrupt behaviour of a family court judge. Right, and so it's gone public.
Which one's not corrupt?
Yeah, exactly. It's such a small number nowadays. But anyway, somebody else who was involved in the case was actually trying to interfere in the case, and they were trying to dig a comment out of me, right? And exactly, I took that advice. I thought, no, you know what? If you wish to talk to me about this subject, talk to me on the phone or in person, I'm happy to talk to you, or, you know, in this sort of situation, but I'm not, you know, I see what you're doing, and, you know, I own my own words, mate. You don't take them from me. So it's the world we live in. We've got to be a bit mindful. I don't want to ever be censored, but at the same time, be mindful of where you say things and when it's appropriate.
With great freedom comes great responsibility, and that's what you've got to look at.
And again, you need to, like, it is absolute paramount. You know the system that you're in.
Yep.
You don't want to get sued. Don't say stuff on where you were going to get caught. Writing a text message when you know every single text message is like, how long have we had that meme going along where it's like, hey, FBI, how do I cook carbonara? Like, you know they're listening in.
True. All right. Well, on that bombshell, well, shall we have some closing words? I'll go to Travis first. Any closing thoughts, mate?
Oh, I want to go to bed. I'm so tired. But no, personally.
Thanks for staying up for us.
Yes,
You're very welcome.
Really
So no, it's the kids are sick, and so now I'm sick as well, and whatever. So, but I do think Australia is at the point where it's our last chance.
Yeah, I agree.
If you want to have any semblance of free speech, autonomy, be able to do whatever you want. We've seen what's happened with body autonomy. We've seen what's happening with financial autonomy, with the banking sector. Now we're seeing like firearms already being taken away from us. Religious autonomy now is also becoming a questionable thing as well. If you really want to continue having the right to be an autonomous citizen, or I'm making words up here, but
it'll do.
I think you've got the next election cycle. You need to start slowing down. You won't turn around in the next election. You need to start slowing it down. You need to start getting involved in different political parties. And then you've got probably 3 years after that.
And if you
after that, get out of Australia.
And if you don't get involved,
offshore, everything.
Guess what? You've got yourself to blame.
Yep.
All right. And of course, Derek, your last thought.
I was going to say Merry Christmas on that note. I think 2020.
Oh, no. In UK, you'll get arrested for that.
Yes. Merry non-denominated kind of issue of happiness.
2026. Okay, so 2025 has been an accelerated year.
Yeah,
okay,
sure.
a lot's happened. A lot of things have come together, which has helped with freedoms that were being lost. Okay.
Yeah.
2026 there's going to be extensions of that freedom. However, you're going to see the globalists fight tooth and nail to hang on to what they've got left. And so I'm expecting a lot of volatility out there. And
I can tell you already, NVIDIA, Intel, a lot of the tech companies, the volatility in the market is insane.
Yeah.
But just remember this, volatility is opportunity.
Yeah. So that's what we show and demonstrate at Blue Sky Factory. But what I want to get into this just quickly, that this is where opportunity lies, is those freedoms are coming because of that fight. And I would say this, don't deny the power of prayer as well. That is so huge. If you feel like you're helpless and useless, you're not. When you actually are in communications with the God of the universe, man, things can move. So on that note, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
Very
everyone.
good point, that one.
Absolutely.
That last one, even if it's not prayer, just taking, 5 minutes, walk around the block, shut your conscious mind down, let your subconscious mind take over for a minute. You'd be amazed what the results will ever happen.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I had
All
to
right,
get a
mate.
little bit of my hippie in there.
Oh, you did. I felt like Jerry Springer's just gone all hippie. But all right. And it's time to get out of here. Thank you so much for being part of the greater wealth here on Edge Radio Australia.